Right, hopefully this will record. Now, just give that a bit of a wipe. Got sun cream on everything. Here we go. Anxiety. Something happened last night, that has caused me to sort of want to talk about anxiety. Because anxiety is a big subject for human beings, generally speaking. And there are ways to resolve it. I mean, lots of people think, I'm an anxious person forever. But this is actually not the case. Anxiety is resolvable. With effort and time, it's resolvable. No medication needed, it's just effort and time. So this is how it goes. If you think of animals, and just think of domestic animals, dogs, cats, for instance, and also think of human babies. So domestic animals and human babies. Now, all three of them, dogs, cats, and human babies, are anxious. Okay? They are vulnerable when born, and they are subject to potential harm, attack, and so on and so forth. And what you see with dogs and cats that aren't sort of brought up in healthy human contact, they're feral, they're edgy. Oh, look at that, bird of prey. There are tons of bird of prey here, but we're digressing. Feral, they're edgy, they snarl, they attack, they are, they're anxious. Little barky dog, all this thing, okay? Now, what changes that for animals and also humans is healthy human contact. If you have a safe person in your life, i.e. when you're a child, a safe parent or safe parents, a safe environment, and same with domestic animals, if they are brought into healthy domestic environments where they're not abused or harmed or neglected and so on and so forth, their personalities change. I mean, this is why I'm mentioning domestic animals or domesticated animals like cats and dogs. There's a marked difference if you look at the difference between feral or wild dogs and feral cats. There's a huge difference between them and a domesticated animal. I mean, it is massive. Excuse me, I'm choking a bit. And what's actually changed them is contact with a safe environment, contact with care, contact with love. Yeah, this changes their nature. It's a massive. It's an unbelievable change that can make. Okay, and the same applies to children. If children are brought up in a healthy, loving, caring environment, they can be healthy, loving, and caring. They are stable, etc. Yeah, and when children are not, especially in situations, say for example, of wartime, when they're deprived of physical contact. I think was it the Romanian orphans? Was it as an example of this? I think in the 90s, where they just had children in cots, never being touched because no one had any time because there were so many of them, and they end up just rocking backwards and forwards. And they've done brain scans on them to show that certain parts of the brains have shut down. So fundamentally, anxiety is kind of a natural state, unless you change the way you're brought up in this world. So, if you're a child and you're brought up in a very, very negative environment, you're going to be deeply anxious. Now, most human beings, suffer from anxiety, and the reason is obvious. Yeah. Parents are not perfect. They're just not. They're people, and they're going to mess up. They're going to create problems. So we've got anxiety. We've all got anxiety. Without the stability of a parent, and you need two sides. You need you need nurture and structure. You need both sides of parenting. This idea where nurturing is the only thing that you need. This is not true. There's a whole and I'm going to talk about this later. There's a whole thing about the feminine being connected to nurture and the masculine being connected to tyranny, structure. And the masculine is unnecessary for bringing up children. Actually, this is not true. Yes, you need both. You need nurture and structure. Without nurture and structure, it doesn't work. And you can see this in dogs. It's actually very obvious in dogs. You can see little dogs who actually get quite a lot of nurture from their owners. Nurture, but no structure. And because they have no structure, they become anxious because there's no a person there to protect them. There's here's a lot of food, here's warmth, there's here's somewhere to live, and there's all that, but there's no structure in which to live, and we need a structure. So without structure, again, you're going to be anxious. You can't just function on one side. You need both sides of the equation. You need nurture and you need structure. You don't just need structure without nurture, and you don't need nurture without structure. You need both, and given both, we do really well. Okay, so and it's quite difficult for a single parent to provide both. I'm not saying that they can, but the roles, a single person can have both abilities, but it's quite hard a thing to develop, although it is a good thing to develop. Most people tend towards one or the other, to be more structure orientated, or I'm just stopping to let Suzanne catch up. Or to be more nurture orientated. But anyway, so you need both. Once you have both, then you tend not to be anxious at all. Okay, so this is what we're looking for: nurture and structure. And too much nurture is chaos. As I said, you can see this in dogs. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, so you can see it in dogs. Dogs with lots of nurture but no structure tend to be growly and barky, and they try and take control, and they're overpowering, and they bark at people when they come to the door, and they're all over the place because there's no structure. There's no structure for them to fit in and feel safe in, and it's the structure that provides security. Okay, so just bear this in mind. You need both. So anyway, as a child, you're not going to get both. Because parents are human beings and they make mistakes. So then you become an adult, and then you become an adult who has anxiety to one degree or another. So what are you left with? Well, to overcome your anxiety, you have to then provide that for yourself as an adult. You can, but it's not sensible, but to spend your then adult years crying about how your parents did this and didn't do that and so on and so forth. Although, maybe there's a need to go for a process and let that type of thing go. But fundamentally, it's not really going to help you. So what you have to do is you have to start parenting yourself. You fall out of the care of your parents. I think it's down here, but I'm not certain. There's a plastic thing tied to it. Oh, there it is. Okay. You fall out of the care of your parents because you leave your parents, and you fall into the care of yourself. And this is something that we all experience. But some people then just fall into a relationship with a significant other, and they hope that this significant other will basically take on a parental role and look after them in some way, and become the parent to them, maybe the father and the mother, the nurturer, and the structure. So it doesn't work, because again, that person is not with you all the time. You're with you all the time, and so really you need to do that. You need to be looking after yourself and not relying on another person to do this for you. Okay? So, whoa, trying to break my neck. So this is getting a bit dangerous. I'm going to pause it. Sorry about that. Dangerous path. Okay, back to this thing. So, marrying someone or creating a relationship with someone, hoping that they will fulfill the roles in your life of nurturer and provider of structure, or security, or whatever word you would like to use, it's just not going to work out, because most people can barely do it for themselves, let alone for their husband, their wife, their partner, their whatever. It's just not going to happen. And relying on someone else to do it, well, the problem with that is you're relying on someone else to do that for you when you're not doing it for you. But you're with you all the time, so you're with someone who's not doing that for you. And that sort of is counterproductive, because what you're in, therefore, generally all the time, is a relationship with someone, i.e. yourself, with someone who is not providing structure or nurture. And therefore, you know, you're pretty much stuffed, because you're not with your partner, your husband, your wife, or whatever, for enough time for it to impact on you. So the person you're with practically all the time, and then when you're asleep, is you. So that person, the person you're with all the time, is the person that's going to impact most fully on you. And therefore, that person needs to provide structure and nurture. Now, moving forward, that if you accept this to be true, which I believe it is true, so if you accept the idea that you have to provide nurture and structure, you then have to be really, really careful, okay? Because too much nurture turns into chaos, okay? I.e., I nurture you to the point where you can have anything you like. Here's some nurturing. Want cake? Have cake. As much food you like, overeating. You want drugs? You want to, relieve this pain or that pain, psychological or physical? Take some drugs. There's some nurture.